It's a case often referred to as the American Dyatlov Pass, an unsolved tragedy where 5 healthy young men walked away from absolute safety, heading deep into a freezing wilderness where they would ultimately die. The 5 men, Ted, Jackie, Jack, Bill, and Gary, were a close-knit group from Yuba City, California. They were bound by routines and close family ties. 4 of the men had intellectual disabilities, and Gary managed his schizophrenia with medication he had successfully taken for years. This photograph of a 1970s supermarket represents the kind of ordinary setting where they were last seen. On February 24, 1976, they attended a basketball game in Chico and stopped at a local market for snacks before starting the drive home. Based on their habits, the route should have been a direct 50-mile drive south on the highway back to their families, but they never went south. Instead, they drove 70 miles in the opposite direction, climbing into the remote, snowy Plumas National Forest. To understand why this mystery has endured for 50 years, we have to look at the physical trail they left behind, a series of findings that seem to defy common sense at every turn. This bright orange 1969 Mercury Montego is the exact model of the car the men were driving. Days after they vanished, a Forest Service worker found it abandoned at the end of a deeply rutted mountain road. The state of the car presented an immediate contradiction. It wasn't stuck in the snow, the undercarriage was completely undamaged, and the gas tank was a quarter full. 5 grown men could have easily pushed the Montego free if they felt they were trapped. Or, at the very least, they could have simply turned the key and used the car's heater to stay warm. Instead, they took the keys, left their snacks sitting on the seats, and walked out into the freezing forest. The timeline is further complicated by the report of Joseph Shones. He suffered a mild heart attack in his own car nearby and described seeing headlights and figures moving through the trees, details that only deepen the mystery of what they were doing on that mountain. This is the first of several behavioral paradoxes. The group chose to abandon a warm, visible, and working shelter for a dark, sub-zero wilderness. This archival image captures search and rescue teams navigating a wooded hillside 4 months later, in June 1976. The melting snow had finally allowed them to access a locked Forest Service trailer, located 19 miles deeper into the woods. Inside, they found the body of Ted Weiher. Based on his beard growth and state of health, investigators determined he had survived in that freezing trailer for up to 13 weeks. Weiher died of starvation and exposure, having lost nearly 100 pounds. Yet, the trailer he was in contained months' worth of commercial food rations. They were left completely untouched. The shelter was also stocked with heavy blankets, unlit propane fuel, and matches. Despite the winter temperatures, Weiher never attempted to start a fire. He slowly froze and starved to death, while sitting directly next to the exact highly accessible resources he needed to save his own life. As the snow continued to melt, searchers found the scattered remains of Jack, Bill, and Jackie in the surrounding wilderness. But the 5th man, Gary Mathias, the only one who required daily medication, was gone. His body was never found. The only trace of Gary was his sneakers, which were left behind inside the trailer. It appears he survived long enough to reach the shelter and swapped his thin shoes for Ted Weiher's heavy winter boots. Finding the men miles apart and finding one man missing entirely shatters any logical narrative of a group sticking together for mutual survival. Over the decades, 2 primary theories have emerged. Authorities lean towards severe hypothermia causing irrational choices. The families, however, strongly suspect the men were fleeing from an unknown threat. Neither theory cleanly fits. Hypothermia doesn't explain why a driver on a routine trip home would detour 70 miles in the first place. And if they were running from an attacker, it doesn't explain how one man lived undisturbed in a trailer for months without eating the food around him. 50 years have passed, no new physical evidence has surfaced, and the case remains officially, stubbornly unsolved. The tragedy of the Yuba County 5 serves as a reminder that forensics can catalog a scene, but it cannot always decode the terrifying decisions made by people in crisis.